The war had already reached its worst moment when the sky above Outpost Kepler 9 began to burn. And for the humans inside the station, it felt like the end of everything they had fought for. The Zur Dominion fleet filled space like a black storm, their ships sharp and cold, firing without mercy, tearing human defenses apart one by one. Explosions lit the stars, and broken ships drifted like graves in the dark. Inside the station, alarms screamed, lights flashed red, and the metal walls shook as enemy fire struck again and again. Commander Ethan Hawley stood among wounded soldiers and exhausted crew, his face tight with worry, knowing that Earth itself would soon face the same fate if this station fell. Humanity had been pushed back for years, always fighting, always losing ground, yet refusing to kneel. Just as despair settled deep into every heart, the sensors cried out with a warning that made no sense. Something massive was approaching, but it was not a ship, not a machine, not anything the scanners could understand. Before anyone could react, the hangar doors bent inward with a scream of tearing metal, smoke pouring through the gap as something forced its way inside. Soldiers raised their weapons, fingers tight on triggers, expecting another enemy. Then the smoke cleared, and silence fell so suddenly it felt unreal. A dragon stood there, enormous and wounded, her scales cracked and darkened by battle, her wings torn and hanging heavy at her sides. Blue blood dripped from her body, burning the floor where it fell. She did not attack. She did not roar. Instead, she stepped forward slowly, every movement filled with pain, and in her massive claws she carried something small and fragile. A baby dragon, barely alive, its body burned by a glowing poison that crawled across its scales. Fear rippled through the humans because dragons were legends made real, ancient beings spoken of in whispers across the galaxy, powerful and proud beyond measure. No one had ever seen one beg. Yet that is exactly what happened. The great dragon lowered her head, then her entire body bowing before the humans, before Ethan himself. She gently placed her dying child on the cold metal floor and pushed it forward with trembling claws. A sound escaped her throat, deep and broken, not a roar of rage but a cry of a mother who had run out of hope. The station's translation system struggled, then finally gave her words meaning, and when her voice came through, it carried centuries of pain and loss. She told them that her child was dying from Zur poison, a living weapon that burned from the inside, that her people had been hunted and destroyed, and that every other species had turned away in fear. Humans, she said, were her last hope. The room felt heavy as death. Some soldiers whispered that this was a trap, others that it was madness to trust an alien creature. But Ethan felt something deeper stir inside him. He had seen cities fall, friends die, children cry for parents who would never return. He looked at the small dragon struggling for breath and saw no enemy, only a life slipping away. Slowly, he lowered his weapon and knelt beside the child. That single act changed the room. Doctors rushed forward despite fear shaking their hands. Scanners activated and medical lights bathed the wounded child in soft white glow. Outside, Zur ships continued to close in, their weapons charging, ready to erase the station from existence, but inside that medical bay, time felt frozen around one fragile life. The mother dragon watched every movement, her golden eyes filled with terror and trust, knowing that if these humans failed, there would be nothing left for her or her species. Ethan gave quiet orders, his voice steady even as the station shook again, telling his people to do everything they could, to treat this child as they would a human one. In that moment, humanity stood on the edge of destruction, facing enemies stronger and crueler than ever before. Yet they chose compassion over fear, action over surrender. While war raged outside and death pressed close on all sides, a human commander placed his hands near a dying alien child and refused to look away. The galaxy did not yet know it, But this single choice, made in the middle of fire and loss, would become the spark that reshaped everything that followed. The baby dragon's life hung by the thinnest thread, and inside the medical bay, the humans worked with a tense precision born of desperation. Dr. Mira Chun stared at the scans, her brow furrowed as the glowing patterns on the monitors revealed the horrifying truth. The Zur poison inside the child was not static. It was alive, moving through its tiny body like a storm of fire that adapted to every attempt to stop it. Each treatment seemed to provoke it, making it faster, sharper, more deadly. She turned to Ethan, voice trembling just slightly. It's learning. Every time we attack it, it changes. Normal medicine won't work. Ethan's eyes were hard, but not without worry. He had faced impossible odds before, but nothing like this. Outside the bay, alarms and distant explosions reminded them that the station was far from safe. Human ships had launched into space, trying to hold back the Zur armada. Their fighters weaving through plasma fire, exploding and spinning into the void. And still the enemy advanced relentlessly, a black wall of destruction. Ethan's voice cut over the comms, calm but firm. All units, buy us time. Hold the line. We do not lose this station today. Back in the medical bay, Mira took a deep breath and proposed a solution that made everyone in the room catch their breath. We can't fight it the normal way, she said. Ethan asked quietly how, and she explained, human immune systems are creative. We fight diseases by adapting faster than the threat. I can program nanites to enter the dragon's bloodstream to learn and fight the poison as it evolves. The idea was dangerous. If it failed, it could kill the child instantly. One of the medics spoke up, fear clear in their voice. You're saying this could be worse than the poison? Myra nodded. Ethan looked at the tiny dragon, struggling to breathe, at the mother who was curled in the corner, wings folded, trembling. He made his choice. We try, he said. We do everything. The mother dragon let out a soft growl, a sound full of pain and hope, and seemed to nod, as if understanding that life itself was being risked on the courage of these humans. The nanites were injected, microscopic machines carrying adaptive intelligence, entering the tiny body of the baby dragon. At first, nothing happened. Monitors were quiet, the child still weak, still trembling. Then the screens flashed, lines of code dancing like flames across the display, as the nanites began to move, seeking the Zur poison and learning its patterns. The child let out a weak cry as the nanites attacked from inside, creating a microscopic battlefield, targeting the living poison in ways no human medicine ever could. The room watched, silent except for the steady beeping of the monitors and the occasional hiss of burning metal from the ongoing battle outside. Minutes passed like hours. Then, slowly, the baby dragon's chest rose more steadily. Its eyes opened wider, shining brightly for the first time in hours, filled with life. The mother dragon's voice broke the tension, a deep sound that resonated through the metal walls, full of relief, joy, and something like laughter. She moved to her child, wrapping her wings protectively around it, the immense heat and power radiating off her filling the bay with a sense of awe. She looked at the humans with a kind of reverent gratitude, understanding that they had done what no other species could. They had saved the life of her child. But their victory was not complete. Through reinforced doors, Zur boarding pods slammed into the station, and soldiers poured into the hallways, weapons blazing, eager to kill anything that moved. Ethan grabbed his rifle, voice steady over the chaos. They don't like miracles, do they? The mother dragon lifted her head, fire gathering in her throat, her eyes glinting with fierce determination. She let out a roar that shook the walls, a sound that combined grief, anger, and pure power. She turned to Ethan, the meaning clear. They hurt my child. They hurt your people. Let us burn them together." And so, humans and dragons fought side by side for the first time, weaving through the corridors of the station, firing weapons, dodging plasma. As the dragon's fire tore through enemy ranks, humans leapt and ran, shields up, rifles blazing, covering the dragons as they smashed through Xur soldiers, while the dragons lifted, swept, and struck in ways that made even the toughest soldiers fear their fury. For the first time in centuries, the Xur forces retreated, falling back as though realizing that the humans and dragons were no longer prey to be destroyed, but a storm they could not withstand. Outside, the battle continued, but something had changed. The Drakari, the ancient dragon species thought lost to history, began to awaken across distant worlds. Their signals, long silent, glowed once more, calling to those who had survived. The humans, exhausted, battered, and still under siege, had not only saved a life but had rekindled hope for an entire species. And in that quiet, brief moment before the next wave of battle, Ethan looked at the mother dragon and her healed child, and understood something fundamental. Courage was contagious, and compassion could rewrite the rules of war. What started as a desperate act to save a single life had become the beginning of an alliance that could change the fate of the galaxy. The humans had acted when no one else would, risking everything in a war that seemed hopeless. And in return, they had earned the trust of a species older and stronger than any other in the galaxy. The war outside still raged. The Xur had not given up. But inside the medical bay, where fear had once ruled, hope now burned brighter than any plasma beam, showing that even in the darkest hour, the courage of humans could bend the course of history. That night, as alarms continued to echo and the distant stars were pierced by fire and light, the baby dragon breathed steadily, the mother's protective wings shielding it. And humans walked among dragons with the quiet pride that they had, against impossible odds, done the impossible. Together, they were no longer victims of a galaxy ruled by the Xur. They were its challengers, its future, and the spark of something far greater than any weapon, fleet, or conqueror could ever extinguish. The Xur Dominion would not forgive, and their full force arrived above Earth like a black storm ready to swallow the world. Thousands of their ships darkened the stars, massive cruisers bristling with weapons designed to crush entire fleets, their numbers so great that even the bravest human commanders felt the weight of despair pressing against their chests. Humanity's ships were few and battered, scarred from years of fighting, yet they lined up in formation, a fragile barrier between the Xur and the home planet, with every pilot knowing this could be their last fight. Commander Ethan Hala stood on the bridge of the flagship Resolute, his hands steady on the controls, his mind racing through every tactic, every possibility, refusing to give in to fear. Around him, crews tightened belts, checked weapons, and whispered prayers to whatever higher powers they believed in. The calm before battle was sharp, almost painful, and then the darkness of space was pierced as hyperspace opened, and shapes of living fire emerged among the human fleet. Dragons, hundreds, then thousands, pouring into the sky like blazing comets, their scales glittering with every color, wings stretching across kilometers of space, eyes burning with intelligence and purpose. The mother dragon, the one who had brought her child to humans and trusted them with its life, led the formation, her child perched on her back, wings folded protectively but ready to strike, their presence alone enough to make the Xur pause. Across the fleet, communications channels lit up as dragons' voices, deep and resonant, carried commands, coordinating attacks, guiding humans through maneuvers that no enemy could anticipate. Ethan led a strike team directly into the heart of the Xur command fleet, human fighters weaving around dragonfire, using it as shields against plasma storms that could have destroyed entire cruisers. The battle became a storm of chaos and brilliance. ships twisting and diving through fire and explosions, dragons swooping through gaps in enemy formations, tearing apart hulls, crushing boarding pods, and causing confusion the Zur had never known. Every time a human fighter fell, another took its place, inspired by dragons circling above like living warships. Every time a dragon struck, the humans found new courage, matching the ferocity with human ingenuity, hacking enemy systems mid-battle, launching unexpected flares, and creating openings the Zur could not predict. Ethan's team finally reached the central command ship, where the Zur overlord waited, a being of cold cruelty, sure that humans and dragons together could be broken. Ethan moved through the corridors with his fighters, plasma rifles blazing, dodging automated turrets and soldiers trained to kill without hesitation. He felt every step, every heartbeat, the weight of the galaxy on his shoulders, yet he did not falter. The Overlord hissed, mocking the humans as weak and temporary, but Ethan smiled through sweat and blood, his hands steady as he set the explosive charges. "Temporary, maybe," he whispered, "but stubborn. And we help strangers." With a final push, the charges detonated, tearing through the command ship, causing cascading explosions that radiated through the Zur fleet, creating confusion, panic, and fear. Outside, dragons used the shockwave to strike again, tearing through enemy ships with flames that ignited corridors and engines, while human ships exploited every opening, every weakness, to fight back with a precision that no one had thought possible. One by one, the Zur fleet faltered, their ships exploding in fire and metal, their formations breaking, and the survivors fleeing in disarray. Unable to comprehend the unexpected alliance of humans and dragons, silence fell over the battlefield, broken only by the occasional distant crash of a drifting cruiser, and for the first time, humanity and the Drakari dragons could breathe and look at what they had accomplished together. Earth was safe, its people alive, and the galaxy had witnessed something it had never seen before, that humans alone could be underestimated. But with courage, ingenuity, and compassion, they could challenge the oldest and strongest forces in the universe. Years later, humans and dragons rebuilt together, sharing technology, knowledge, and skies, creating new worlds where species once hunted or feared each other now lived side by side. Statues rose on Earth and across Drakari worlds, not of leaders or conquerors, but of the moment a human knelt beside a dying dragon child and refused to give up. That simple act, born of courage, empathy, and stubborn determination, had changed the galaxy forever. Humans were no longer just one species among many. They were a force defined not by age or strength, but by the choice to act when hope seemed gone. The mother dragon, once desperate and broken, now soared above planets alongside humans, her child grown strong, a living symbol of the bond forged in the heat of war. Generations would speak of this day when the Zur Dominion learned that no matter how powerful, they could not break the spirit of beings who fought for what was right, who risked everything to save a life, and who refused to surrender even when death loomed over them. And in the quiet moments, far from the battlefields, humans remembered the lessons of the dragons. Courage could spark miracles. Hope could survive even in the face of annihilation. And the bonds formed in fire and blood could shape the future of stars themselves. Every fighter pilot who had taken part, every dragon that had flown through the storm, every human and alien who had risked life for life, knew that they had changed history, proving to all that the smallest and seemingly weakest could rise to meet the mightiest, and in doing so, leave a mark that would never fade. The galaxy had been altered forever, not by conquest or domination, but by a single act of compassion that had grown into an alliance of unstoppable courage. And the legend of humans standing with dragons against impossible odds would echo through the cosmos for countless generations. a testament to the resilience, ingenuity, and unbreakable spirit of humanity.